Hello, everybody, and welcome to the RHoD playoffs. I'm Dale. I'm joined today with Mythos, the Magician, and ELP's Protection.
How's he doing?
Hello. For those of you just tuning in, we are just starting up the stream today, so you're tuning in a good time. We have today the match versus KaoS Legion and Paragon. As you can see with the bracket setup, whoever goes on here will advance to play either Snow Raven or Luna Wolves or KDR Squad. It should be a really good match. I'm expecting, especially with between KaoS Legion and Paragon, both very good teams, well-known teams. So it's going to be some interesting play, I think, from both sides.
Yeah, I wouldn't. You can look at the seeds. KaoS is second seed, Paragon seventh, but I wouldn't really focus on that too much, as we're in the playoffs now, and a lot of teams are at this level are very good, and they haven't necessarily. I don't know if these two teams have played each other very much, but having played against both of them, I do expect a very good match.
Both these teams are big, brawly teams. They love to fight in the brawl, but they both have talented snipers as well, so it's going to be really interesting to see what to expect out of these teams. You're right, KaoS is definitely the favorite to win. Paragon are definitely going to be the underdogs in this one, but, any given Sunday, what can happen?
Yeah, I'm curious if the teams are going to go for a more brawl setup, or if you might see a little bit of range. Paragon, one of their wins was against Snow Raven, and I believe they played a bit more range against them. However, since that match, the game's continued to evolve. So I'm not sure. I mean, a lot of teams now are going with this mixed range and brawl setup with 3Ds, and combined with DDC Atlas and the Sense and the Ravens. So they might go that way, or we might see them pull out some PPC stalkers and try to really control KaoS from far away.
I know that KaoS has a lot of disdain for the Stalker, so I'm expecting pure DDC Atlas spam from them. Paragon, however, I've seen them run SRM6 Stalkers, I've seen them run PPC Stalkers. I'm expecting a Stalker in almost every drop from them.
Dale's a stalker specialist, so maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Well, if they try and bring the PPC Stalker, it's definitely going to lend itself much more to a ranged game. But as you mentioned, a lot of teams are looking at these mixed drop decks, mixed weight builds. So you're looking at possibly maybe the one-off, two-offs of the PPC Stalkers, or do you really want to try and force your build around that, or do you want to try and just sprinkle them in? They don't really fit themselves well to just sprinkling them into the rest of the build. You really want to have something else protecting it. So it's going to be interesting if they do bring out anything like a PPC Stalker. You're going to see a much more ranged game, I think, out of that particular match. But you see something like the DDC Atlas, which can kind of fit either way, depending on, especially if your team's taking either the AC-20 or the KaoS rifle. It definitely lends itself a bit more to the mixed play. So it'll really depend on if the teams want to try to force this into a sniper brawl out, sniper loadout, or if they want to try and brawl in, or if they, again, as I mentioned, a lot of teams are looking at this mixed loadout, so it'll be interesting.
It's true, but I mean, I don't think we're expecting too many surprises from the KaoS assault line. We're probably going to see their standard 2 medium laser, autocannon, 3 SRM, standard brawler Atlas with a big 350 engine that's going very high speed. For a mech of that size, anyway.
So one of the areas I'm going to be really looking out for is the light mech play. I feel that that's one area that you need to control. You need to be able to control the scouting. You need to know where the enemy's at. And if the other team is playing you with their Ravens, they'll keep you from being able to see where your movements are, and they can try to sneak around, maybe get a base cap, or attack you from a side you're not expecting. I'm not sure who's going to be in the lights tonight for the teams. I believe at least KaoS Dragon will probably be in a Raven for KaoS Legion. So I'll be looking at his name to see if he gets some of the early kills.
You're probably going to see Smoking Joe in there too, and you're right, we're not going to see anything but Raven 3Ls at the light position. There's never been a surprise there. That said, what is going to be interesting is the amount of cicadas that we see. I'm expecting both teams to at least try fielding cicadas here and there. Both teams keep that option open. They both like that option, and having cicada can just give you that edge in the light fight. Just one more ECM, 4 more lasers, just help you bring down those Ravens quick, and then you've got light domination.
Yeah, that'll be really interesting because the first match will be 2 all setups. So that's 2 assaults, 2 heavies, 2 mediums, and 2 lights. If they take a cicada in that, you really have to try to win that light fight early on, because you don't want to get in a full brawl with the other team having those 2 cents, which you'll be able to get onto your bigger mechs and take them down pretty quickly with the 3 SRM6.
That's right, especially if you're running the Stalker, which just get torn apart by those Centurions with their SRM spam.
And we should be seeing the first match come up in about 15 minutes from now. I believe they got the first one synced.
And the other interesting question, of course, is going to be what are we going to see at the heavy position? Are we going to see KC20s, AC20 cats? Are we going to see Splat cats, 6 cats, A1s? Or are we going to see 3D Pop-Tarts? It's really an interesting choice. Are you going to go for that big brawl power, or are you going to go for that ranged sniper that's fairly versatile?
Especially with Alpine Peaks now in the rotation, a lot of teams are switching over to the 3Ds because they want to make sure they have that range. Because say you get the random dice roll, Alpine Peaks comes up about 15% of the time, and you're stuck with a brawl setup. It can be very difficult.
Well, difficult but not impossible. I mean, you have to factor in, are you really going to let one map dictate the possibility of a pure range game, or do you want to try and force it do you really want one map to decide if you're going to change your entire drop deck? I think the 3D is definitely in a good spot regardless of the map choice. So I am expecting to see a lot of 3Ds, but I would also at the same time, if you're going for a more brawl setup with you bringing those DDCs, I would expecting much more to see something along the lines of a Splat Cat or an AC20 Cat.
And going back to the assault position for just a second, from Paragon, I'm wondering if they're going to be bringing a very interesting Atlas build that they've kind of pioneered, and that is your AC20, 3 SRM6s, but they also run a 325 standard with a large pulse laser and a medium pulse laser on different arms. So it's kind of a different style of brawler build than we're used to.
Brings up a good point, because one thing I have been seeing lately is as this game gets a little bit farther range, the brawling atlases, some people are taking 2 large lasers instead of the 2 medium lasers. That means that when they get in the fight, they won't be able to use their lasers very much, but they'll at least be able to do something as they close the distance.
Definitely an option to watch out for. Like I said, I am expecting both of these teams are very aggressive. They like to take the initiative. They like to make the first move. They like to go pretty aggressive, pretty early, control the map. And I'm expecting these teams to come to a head very quickly. I'm expecting some fairly fast matches, but it's hard to tell. I mean, you never really know.
Yeah, I've seen Paragon play a very defensive game. They might move up, try to get some combat early, and then fade back. But against KaoS, I think KaoS is going to try to pressure them right off the bat, so it could lead to very quick fights.
And another thing we've seen KaoS do is KaoS have used their 3D Pop-Tarts to scout while keeping the Ravens back in reserve. That's something they also have to keep in mind. You can pop up with the Pop-Tarts, get a couple early shots off, shift any kind of a future brawl into your favor early without taking any big risks.
Do you expect to see very many base cap attempts?
I'm absolutely expecting it. Paragon, one of the strategies we've seen them do several times is they like to put feet on the base at the same time they initiate a brawl. That way they've got 2 prongs going, and you're either going to have to pull guys back from the brawl, which equalizes it for them, or you're going to have to risk losing the base cap very quickly, which with 2 Ravens and a Cicada can happen very fast.
With that being said, though, if you try and go for the base cap as your primary focus, you've seen teams lose focus when it gets to the brawl because they sent too many mechs away to try and cap that base, and they lose that numbers advantage. So I think it's a risky move, but I do agree with you. I'm expecting to see a lot of base cap attempts, if not just striking, crossing it real quick, just to try and see what the other team does. I mean, there's both very experienced teams. They're kind of I would be completely surprised if they weren't expecting something like that. But at the same time, it's never worth, never hurts to just try and tap it real quick and see what they do.
Absolutely, and someone's mentioning that we're probably going to see Snalio in a PPC Stalker. That's definitely a possibility, although he does run a pretty good Centurion as well, so we'll have to see. I'm expecting to see Syncline and Adrenaline on Paragon playing in the assault position as well.
And speaking of the assault position, I know we've talked about the 2 all drop deck, but following that is going to be an immediate 3-3-1-1. What are our predictions on that one?
that's a very difficult one because you can play that one as a complete range game, or you can go for a slower brawl setup. Because of course you're taking the assaults with a 350 engine. You're looking at about 62 kph on those. So if you have to close that distance against a ranged team, it can be very difficult because they're putting out a lot of firepower against you.
And with the 3-3-1-1, you've got a lot more freedom to take a stalker. But again, the really interesting position in the 3-3-1-1 is that one medium. Do you take a Cicada to support your one Raven, or do you take a Centurion to have a little bit more punch in the brawl?
That is a big choice. I personally prefer the Cicada most of the time because you want to be able to control the intelligence. If their Raven's able to move out and find you and harass you or base camp you, and you can't return that, I think you're at a big disadvantage, much more than the damage. Because Cicadas aren't expected to do very much damage. I mean, 4 medium lasers is pretty weak, or 4 medium pulse even. 4 medium pulse will take down a light fairly well, however. It's not going to do very much damage against the heavier mechs because it's just going to get too hot.
That's right. Plus, cicadas really don't stand up very well against accurate heavy pilots, accurate assault pilots. They can just take down the big hitboxes on the cicada very quickly.
Right, and that's why some people are just switching over to the Cent, because the Centurion is able to take down Ravens fairly well pilots these days. They're pretty accurate with those SRMs, and part of that might honestly be this whole issue with the splash damage that we're hearing about.
Yeah, it's hard to say about SRMs because, I mean, on the one hand, if you make them weaker, you give smaller mechs like the Centurion, like the Hunchback, even the Raven, are much less effective at taking down assaults or heavies. On the other hand, they do seem to be far and away the best weapon for their tonnage. There's just no argument there. If you had an unlimited number of hardpoints, you'd see lots and lots and lots of SRMs on every mech.
One weapon we probably won't see at all tonight, I think, is LRMs. I don't think I've seen either team really trying to use the LRMs, even with the improved Artemis, which definitely improves the way that it focuses damage on a mech. However, I still think that most teams feel like they can outmaneuver any other team that takes LRMs to pretty much negate their damage.
Totally agree with you. LRMs just have not been very effective in competitive play. You see far too many of them just go into rocks. These teams are too experienced, and they almost all run very big engines. They're just going to tuck behind cover. None of the missiles are going to find their mark. I'm not saying that it can't be done, but it's such a risky play, and it costs you precious missile hardpoints that could have been used for SRMs. The juice just isn't worth the squeeze.
I mean, the closest thing I think we'll see to LRM's competitive play, at least unless something significant happens to them, you might see a one of, two of LRM, maybe one LRM 15 on a mech, or again, you do risk, you're going to take away an SRM 6 or similar. But at the same time, what you can do in competitive play, maybe lock down where they're going. If you can keep them pinned, yes, they're going to take cover behind that rock, but if you can keep them pinned on that rock, then you're going to have a bit more of a map advantage. You're going to be able to outmaneuver them, outflank them. So you might see the one of, but I still wouldn't expect it to see it tonight. I'm thinking it's very much an experimental phase in competitive play to try and use the LRMs.
We have faced teams that have done it, and I think that as time goes on and as things get tweaked, LRMs become more useful, especially as we see some of these longer range maps. If you happen to take LRMs and you fought on Alpine Peaks, you would have a really big advantage against the other team. So you can always, you're not like you're going to throw the dice on just one map, but it can also be useful on Caustic.
That's true, but I mean, all the smaller maps offer just tremendous cover, and even on Alpine and Caustic Valley, there are good places to just duck away and avoid the LRMs. However, you're right, though. When we see 12v12 down the road, I'm expecting that you will see LRMs get more involved in these competitive games.
I mean, when we get 12v12 with competitive games and you're seeing the LRMs, it's going to a point where you're able to protect them a lot more. You're able to have more targets to fire on. I think with the increased number of mechs, I agree with you definitely with LRMs possibly seeing play due to the fact that you suddenly have more mechs, more places you can go that are considered safe. Or as it stands now, if you separate too far from the rest of your team, you're going to get mowed down. But if you get 12v12, you can have a bit more of your team with you to provide that layer of protection that the LRMs really need. Because if you get pushed on, they're gone.
Now, protection. Do you know who Paragon's drop commander is? Because I believe on KaoS side, Christoph will be the one calling the drops for them.
That's right. On Paragon, I believe it's Samurai, a legendary samurai who will likely be playing in the light position, which is a very unusual position to find the drop commander. But Paragon has been making it work, and can't really argue. If it's been working, keep going with it. Snalio, oh, I apologize. Snalio will be calling the drops. Paragon or Legendary Samurai just organizes. My bad on that one.
Snelio is typically an assault. A lot of teams find it much easier to be the slow mech in the fight, the guy that can sit back and maybe be the last one into it. They're much easier to call positions, to call targets. Also, when you're in a faster mech, you're just really focused on trying to pilot. You're trying to weave. You're trying to hit the mechs, trying to hit the targets. You're trying not to get killed. Whereas in assault, you're pretty much standing there and slugging it out.
That's true. It is definitely the most common place to see a drop commander.
I think a large portion of that is if you are going in the first one in, either in a slide or a medium, and as soon as you go down and that drop commander suddenly is down for about 5 seconds without being able to control any portion of the battle, he can't load up the map, he can't call a specific target anymore. He has to try and get through the eyes and ears of somebody else on his team. That lack of communication for even as brief as 5 seconds, 10 seconds, that can really destroy any type of coordination that team had.
Absolutely, and that's one of the ideas behind targeting the commander first when you get the opportunity, is to just try and bring them down, give that team that kind of command shock. When their commander goes down, they don't quite know what's going on for a few seconds, then you just kind of take the initiative on that. However, like I said, or like you mentioned, both of these teams are experienced. They're both very elite teams. Whether or not they have any kind of a backup plan in place, do they have secondary commanders, lance commanders, guys that are going to take over during that moment? I mean, I'm not expecting it to be too big of a deal.
One area I'm really interested in seeing how these teams play out is because KaoS plays a lot of four-mans. They don't do as much of the scrims, whereas Paragon is a really big scrim team. They came from Dragon, which is an MPBT team, and right away they were asking us for scrims. They're asking other teams for scrims. They're scrimming almost every night, and I think they have a lot of experience in the organized eights. So I'm expecting them to put that to good use.
That's true, but like we said, I mean, they are going to be the underdog here. KaoS are probably not only the favorite to win this game, but probably one of the very heavy favorites to win the entire RHoD or Die season. KaoS is a very good team, and part of the problem with dealing with KaoS is it's not like, as people have mentioned during the Jaguar Deviate game, it would be a great idea to have taken down Rockwolf, who was a great sniper for Deviate. Part of the problem with KaoS is there isn't any one or two keystone players that you can just shatter the whole team by taking down. If you take down one good player, they've still got 7 good players left.
And I agree with the Paragon might have some more experience with the 8v8, especially in organized play with trying to get set up those scrims. At the same time, KaoS Legion's record in the league speaks for itself, undefeated season. So it's definitely going to be hard to call. I think I agree with the KaoS Legion is probably the favored to win here, especially that undefeated record speaks for itself. But Paragon is not going to go down without a fight, and this can really go either way.
Absolutely right. Paragon has shown lots of surprises all season long, and I wouldn't be. I mean, we can expect them to do some put up a really hard fight here.
Yeah, KaoS Legion faced some really good teams in the season such as World of Lotex, KDR Squad. Paragon faced some really good teams as well. They defeated Snow Raven, they defeated ELP, but they also lost to World of Lotex's hardcore team and Wolf Spiders.
That's right, and the Wolf Spiders loss, as we now know, was from a very defensive game by Wolf Spiders using the 4 PPC Atlas RS as well as Pop-Tart snipers. A very defensive, very long-range sniper combination was able to beat Paragon pretty hard in those matches.
So we should be seeing the stream anytime now. They have started their second match. So that's good to hear that they're syncing up successfully so far.
And speaking of syncing, I know a lot of us were concerned with Stage 3 of ELO matchmaking going into play. Would we be able to continue the sync dropping? Actually, here we go.
So we missed the splash screen. We don't get to see what mechs they have, but so far we do see that they are taking range DDCs. Perhaps we're seeing through a perspective of a heavy right now. It's the Cataphract 3D with the Gauss rifle on the arm and the 2 RPPCs. He is moving 72.6 kph. That means he has an XL engine.
So you can still run a standard engine going that fast, but I do think you're right with the XL because of the Gauss rifle with 40 rounds, 4 tons of ammo with ERPPCs is either really hot or an XL.
And in front of him, we can see Snalio running the DDC Atlas, the Command Atlas. He's got his ECM up, and it looks like they're going for a straight 5-line, probably going to hold behind the ridge.
There's 2 mechs there looking at Cave. I don't know if those are their Ravens, but I saw the Centurions out to the right.
And calling out more players, like we see Hover Tank in the other DDC Atlas for Paragon here.
It looks like just a standard looking at the ridge, seeing if they pop over. At this point, I wouldn't expect either team to really do so. It looks like they might be having their Pop-Tart look over, see if they can see if there's anything on the other side.
I did see a Raven pass through the gap in the dropship, so KaoS is definitely looking here.
We just saw a few KaoS mechs tucked into D5, just behind that kill box there, right next to the cave.
And at least one ECM, with those being likely assault, I'm expecting a DDC in there.
And it looks like Legendary Samurai and Hublon are playing the Paragon Ravens and just kind of keeping an eye on the cave far back in F4. Nice, safe, well away from harm. Just a nice slow pacing right now. Teams are just kind of getting their feet. Hearts are probably beating, and teams are just trying to figure out what the other guy's up to.
It's very difficult to assault over the ledge or even to go around the drop ship against really good teams who are well positioned. You'll take a lot of firepower. They don't necessarily know if they're what KaoS is running at this point.
We see Machine way back in D7. He's a Pop-Tart sniper. He's one of the best snipers that KaoS have. And he's very, very far to the right there.
He looked to be sitting in the D7 city area with at least one other mech, so it might just be, as far as I can tell, this seems to be both teams sitting very defensively, looking to see if they can get any sort of angles on any sort of flanking position on the other team. At this rate, though, I'm expecting the clock to run down a little bit longer before any team tries to engage.
That's right. Taking those first 35 damage hits from the 3Ds can really, really upset your game plan. Even if you're in an Atlas with lots of armor, just getting hurt in like your right side torso, you know, you could start losing autocannons. It's just what you don't want to have happen before you get to the brawl.
So KaoS is keeping their Ravens pretty close to the fight, whereas Paragon has their Ravens. I'm pretty sure those are the ones watching Cave. Be interesting if Paragon tries to push those around and do a base cap.
It looks like the Paragon Centurions are back in F7, keeping an eye on the canyon. Machine fires just wide.
And judging by the ECM, I'm thinking that is the Ravens looking at Cave. They do have one spotted in there. Nobody's sneaking through there today. Although they are backing off, I'm curious if they tried to send something along the lines of a Centurion through the cave there. Something the Ravens didn't quite want to engage on.
I did see an arrow there in the cave, so KaoS definitely put a mech in there.
So KaoS running the Ravens past the ridge again. They want to just keep an eye on what Paragon is doing. They want to make sure Paragon doesn't try for a snap push here. So you can see they are playing with the double Pop-Tarts. We don't know what their Atlases are loaded with quite yet, but we can see that they're definitely playing at least a partial sniper game.
Again, both teams just very defensively here. Neither team quite wants to make the first move, especially this ridge playing such a large part on this map. If you cross over first, if you just try and charge right at them, you're going to be mowed down before you can close in.
And what do you guys think
position.
of Paragon's spread here? I've noticed that their Centurions are very wide to the left, Ravens very wide to the right, with their heavies and assaults right up the middle. Do you think they're taking any risks against a KaoS Blitz by having forces spread so wide to cover the whole ridge?
I don't think it's too much of a risk right now.
I think it's a bit of a risk right now. At the same time, KaoS seems to be doing the same thing. They do seem to be spread out wide. So that's actually a good hit on the Raven. So it's a bit of a risk, but at the same time, before KaoS can muster up the time required to get their mech score in position, go for that blitz, you're going to see them reacting to it in time. And actually, we have mechs moving into the pocket now.
KaoS has definitely spotted them. Let's see how they respond to this. They're closing in.
And interesting to note that the DDCs do seem to have moved. They moved over towards that Delta 7 area. So now they're trying to fight their way back.
KaoS Dragon's Raven is taking a fair bit of damage. Oh, almost core. That was a perfect hit. And here come the Atlases. We got a full-on brawl in Charlie 5. It's that KaoS Brawler Atlas we were worried about.
I think it was definitely a smart move for Paragon, trying to wedge themselves in. You're basically saying, we're threatening your base cap at the same time that we're wanting to do this brawl.
Absolutely, and they crossed KaoS's T right there. It looks like they're in pretty good shape as they're taking down SRMs left and right on those Atlases. If there's one weapon you want to bring down on the Atlas, it's the SRMs. Oh, but a perfect shot by Christoph will take down one of these Paragon cataphracts.
And actually, as you see, we do have Paragon going for that base cap. They threaten the base cap, trying to force them back, get them into that brawl.
And that's actually a really good play because they're well aware of how damaged KaoS Dragon is. We can see Paragon players going down left and right, but are they going to get back in time to stop the base cap? Here comes KaoS Dragon, but he's in terrible shape. His core is almost gone.
And the question is, are they going to switch focus in time? Do they realize that KaoS is this hurt?
Both these Ravens, both the KaoS Ravens are just in bad shape right now. This could get really ugly. The base cap is almost 2/3 captured.
At the same time, this is taking way too long to knock down these Ravens. They finally got 1 kill versus KaoS, but KaoS has already picked up 4. It's a 4v7 at the current time. And you're already seeing KaoS's main brawlers coming back.
It is suddenly looking very bad for Paragon. They didn't have quite enough time. Now they're going for the Raven. They get KaoS Dragon down, but it might have already shifted too far in KaoS's favor. A1 is partially disarmed.
Again, we're seeing Atlas's A1s since they're back on base. This is definitely not looking good for Paragon anymore.
Not at all. Legendary Samurai is very hurt. He will not last long. There he goes. Cartman takes him down. And they're calling GG.
That's always a big risk.
It was a good play by Paragon, but they didn't quite capitalize on it. They went right for the base cap and just didn't take the Ravens down fast enough.
Yeah, it's a big risk. If you can't get them down fast enough, you're in trouble because what you've done is you've taken out your 2 Centurions out of the fight, out of the brawl. Well, they have theirs there, and they're able to use that numbers advantage to quickly take down the Paragon mechs. Paragon really pushed up close to those 3Ds instead of keeping them back. I'm not sure why they wanted to engage so close when they could have maybe stayed back and been sniping at the enemy mechs.
Yeah, for that first brief moment in the match, it looked like Paragon had the advantage when they were splitting that KaoS force in 2, putting a lot of pressure on those Atlases. But going for the base cap, they pulled a Centurion as well as both their Ravens away from the fight, and I think it just gave KaoS the edge.
And that always the risk. Whenever you're trying to go for that base cap, you are taking mechs away from the fight. If your opponent does not react to that in time, if they can either, suddenly it's a 6v4, if they send their 2 lights back to try and stop base, which it seemed they did, that 6v4 is going to quickly turn into possibly a 4v none with the 6 coming out ahead. And if you can't take down the lights in time, you're going to get pushed on by everyone who you just took out your teammates.
So as we talked about in the part before the match, KaoS did take a mixed setup. They had the A1 Splat Cat, or as they like to call it, the Bukkake. And they also had the 3D. That's a very interesting mix to have. I haven't really seen teams combine those 2 mechs together in the 2 all.
That's because it is generally a pretty big risk. When you have only 1 Pop-Tart and your opponent has 2 Pop-Tarts, you've given a very big sniper advantage to them, but I guess KaoS felt confident enough with machine sniping ability that he could do the job of 2 Pop-Tarts there.
So we should begin the second match too soon.
That's right, they say match 2 is just wrapped up, and match 3 will be beginning shortly thereafter.
So it looks like they are definitely having an excellent time syncing tonight, so hopefully we'll get these through between matches.
Yeah, looking at it right now, this should be up in about 3 to 4 minutes. We should see match 2.
And going back to that first match, with the differences between the heavies there, taking the Splat Cat instead of 2 3Ds and taking the other team, Paragon, with the 3Ds. Yes, they did have the initial sniper advantage, but at the same time, as soon as they started pushing, they forced it into a brawl and they lost that advantage. Is that something that you thought was an intelligent decision? I mean, yes, they tried to set it up for the base cap, but it would have been smarter to try and sit back, continue, draw that out longer, and force the sniping. But at the same time, did Paragon know that it was a Splat Cat?
That definitely came as a surprise to me. It came as a surprise to, I think, everyone watching. I'm gonna guess it came as a surprise to Paragon, and KaoS kept it very well hidden. It looked like they might have had 2 Pop-Tarts. They definitely had someone over in the corner with Machine, but it could have just been a Centurion. So, and one of the really interesting things there, we saw no Stalkers, we saw no Cicadas as well. So, I mean, these teams are going for basically maximum tonnage.
They both had enough brawl set up. It could have been, I think, a lot closer if Paragon had either ripped apart those Ravens right away or had maybe even sent those scents back as soon as they saw the Ravens. Because as soon as they saw the Ravens there, it was going to be a tough fight to try to finish off, I think, in time before KaoS would get their rest of their force back. Because they got that Splat Cat back fairly quick. They could have tried to push off away from that flag, maybe with their Centurions, and start to engage in a little more open area, because a closed area with Centurions against a Splat Cat or even against the Atlas DDCs is going to be very difficult.
Absolutely, and just not having that Centurion there to, help punch down those Atlases when they started getting hurt, it was definitely missed by Paragon. They could have done much better in the brawl had the Centurion been present.
But it was a good attempt. I mean, they're looking at KaoS. They said, hey, maybe we can get that base cap, quick base cap. Maybe KaoS won't react quick enough, or they won't know how many mechs are quite on that flag. But unfortunately for Paragon, just that area on that flag, it is hard to fight Ravens against Ravens because it's a lot of hills. The base part takes up a lot of that space that Ravens can kind of hide behind and have the streaks hit.
And one thing we noticed for those of us watching the stream was that Guitarist in his Cataphract went down very quickly, and that's because he got hit in the rear right torso, which is where, of course, his KaoS rifle is stored. So just one big chunk of burst damage there took him down very quickly, which is really unfortunate because his mech had sustained very little damage otherwise.
And again, it's the risk you run with an XL engine. With a KaoS rifle, it's if that KaoS rifle decides to pop on you, it's going to hurt.
I do apologize, the KaoS was in the arm, but yeah, you're right, the XL engine side torso. And a lot of teams do also, especially on Pop-Tarts, strip a lot more armor off the back so you have that extra cushioning in the front.
But again, it's just the power of the DDC Atlas and the brawler setup coming up behind. You can get a nice rear torso shot like he did. It pops the mech.
Reactor online.
So far, we have 119 viewers.
And it looks like we are about to kick off Game 2. We are on Frozen City once again.
And it actually looks like same drop zones as well.
I have game audio this time. I don't know if you guys had game audio the first time, but...
Absolutely, and why don't you let them know what drop weight this is?
This should be the 2312, I believe. I'll go check it out real quick. This is 3311. Yeah, you're right. This should be the 3311.
And we did see the Stalker 3F looking there, so possibly the PPCs.
Definitely going to be interesting to see how Paragon just decides to play this one out after that last match. I wonder if they are now expecting the A1, or if they're going to expect more Pop-Tarts. I wonder what they're thinking.
They did keep with the 3D, so they decided they want to try to keep to play this ranged game against KaoS. Or they want to maybe even switch to more of a ranged game. As we talked about before, it's a heavier mechs, a lot of firepower.
And you saw that Stalker heat up, it looks definitely like it's boating some PPCs.
Takes a big hit.
Takes a hit.
Luckily it's on his leg, which is one of the better places to get hit by that PPC KaoS combo.
It's hard to tell, but it looks like it might just be the one Stalker 3F there, so I'm curious to see what the other assaults are in this deck.
Paragon's playing this very aggressive. They want to take control of the ridge very early. It looks like they have decided to pull back just a bit. It's Cartman. Looks like supported by Kristov. They are already in brawl mode.
I just wanted to try and smack this sniper deck right in the face.
Looks like it. Cartman's getting pretty weak in the torso, but he has already taken down one of the Paragon mechs. Trying to line up shots, but they're just having a hard time. Valios goes down to Hugster. Cartman partially disarmed, but he's still going. Oh, and an overheat, that is not good. Paragon, oh, and here comes Machine. KaoS has brought their full force right into the brawl. Snalio goes down. This looks very bad for Paragon.
Yeah, it looks like they managed to definitely sneak up on them through that pocket bridge area between the building and the wall.
And I'm figuring KaoS just said, look, it's a sniper deck, let's just go right at them. Sent their Atlases over, got supported by the Cataphracts immediately after, and that just got very ugly very fast for Paragon. Match lasting barely over 3 minutes.
That was definitely a smart play from KaoS. It's definitely a smart play from KaoS, seeing that Stalker 3F, seeing the PPCs, and deciding, no, we don't want to try and draw this out into a sniper brawl. That's not our drop deck. They brought the 3 DDCs. They did bring the 3 Cataphract 3Ds, but I guess they just decided they didn't want to try and outsnipe them. Let's just bring the DDCs in, force this into a brawl, and take at least one mech, especially if it's running just the 6 PPCs, no ERs mixed in. You definitely can take that out of the fight very quickly if you can sneak up on them, and which they definitely pulled off successfully.
I think that Paragon had a little bit of disadvantage being in that lower DZ with that setup, because you can't just sit back behind that ridge. You have to be in the lower part of the ridge, which means they try to play pretty aggressive by standing up on top of that ridge and fighting right away, which can work sometimes, but KaoS was in position, was able to return some firepower right away.
Absolutely, and credit to the KaoS Atlases. They just stormed right in there. They disrupted the Paragon lines. Being a very sniper-heavy loadout, they were running hot. Paragon just couldn't handle the heat, couldn't get enough shots off, and then by the time they were ready to fight back, KaoS already had their full force bearing down on them. Nobody pushes like KaoS, says Death Sentence 01, and that is the truth. And credit to Paragon, they tried something a little bit different. It didn't quite work there, but we did also see multi-talented on KaoS running that Cicada. We saw Paragon deciding to run the Centurion, guessing they wanted maybe that little more brawl power, but didn't make a big difference against those 3 massive KaoS DDCs.
That's one of the other things about Frozen City is you have a lot of lanes in Frozen City. You have the buildings, you have the hills, that you could really push the brawl weapons up against the ranged weapons. One of the strategies from the DZ Paragon had, though, is that you back up in the far corner, either their back right corner or more towards their base, and really try to extend that range as long as possible.
Absolutely, and the maps really haven't been working in Paragon's favor. If that had been the same drop on Alpine, for example, Paragon would have been in a much nicer position to control that game.
Even Force Colony.
Even as Mythos mentioned, the drop zones had switched. The other drop zone does seem to favor a bit more long range. You are able to sit back on some hills behind that ridge line and let them come to you. Whereas if you try and do the same on the drop zone that Paragon did have that match, they try and push over. It's much shorter distances from the ridge line to where you can safely set up your snipers.
So what now for Paragon? Base capping didn't quite work, sniper deck didn't quite work. Do you switch to the brawl, play the game that the KaoS wants you to play, or do you try something different?
It's a tough call. I mean, the next drop is the 2-3-1-2 setup, which is still a fairly heavy drop deck, so you can still have a lot of firepower at range. But again, like you're saying, they might be feeling like, maybe we should just go brawl and try to actually just go in a full brawl, see who can outshoot the other team, outfocus the other team.
And like we said, Paragon got this far largely by being brawlers. Not exclusively, but brawling has definitely been one of their strong suits. And I mean, in playoffs, dance with the one that brung you, maybe?
So far, they've taken sniper-ish loadouts both times. And with a 2-3-1-2, you can definitely take something along the lines of Splat Cats, AC-20 Cats, and you try and push up on them, force them into that brawl. The sniper didn't work out for you. Do you try and change it up at this point, or do you think, no, we can do the sniper, it's going to be worth it for us in the long run? We just played it, maybe didn't have the right maps, maybe didn't have the right drop zones for the first map, just got a little bit off our game through forces that we possibly couldn't control. Do we want to try and bring the snipers again? Say, no, this is where our strengths are. This is what we can do. We just need a better map for it.
And it looks like we are kicking off. It looks like it's Frozen City once again. We have the
And it looks like they did go with the going for the brawler build with 2 SRM6s and 3 large pulse lasers.
And we see a K2 and an A1, so it's they're definitely going to want to pick a fight this time.
And a quick readjusting of weapon groups.
I think that shows you
which
that
leads me
Paragon,
to believe.
Paragon didn't quite.
Saying,
yeah, I think we're the same thought. Paragon didn't plan for this drop, but they've decided to make a change.
with that being said, 2 SRM6s and 3 large pulse lasers, that does pack a punch on a catapult, and it's not something that we normally see either the 6 SRM6s or maybe mixing an SRM4 in there, or the AC-20s. This is definitely something unique.
I have to say, this is the first time.
Absolutely. C1 has just not been a very popular mech in Run Hunt or Die at all, so getting a chance to see it is definitely a new experience for a lot of us.
And here they're definitely sitting closer towards their cave, trying to hide behind buildings. They might be trying to expect Paragon, or not Paragon, KaoS, to push back over, do that brawl again, and maybe catch them off guard. And here we do see catapults A1 and K2s.
Trying to keep them hidden behind this building, hoping that maybe KaoS won't be able to spot them. Wondering if they're seeing that A1, though. His arms seem to be reaching out just over the top of that building. KaoS is controlling the ridge. They are scouting fairly effectively.
We have a bit of sniper Pop-Tart play. Able to keep him pinned down back here.
It looks like we've got Adrenaline in the Boomcat this time. C4th is going to be in the Paragon Centurion.
And they did decide to go with the Centurion here instead of a Cicada to try and help out the lights even further. So they definitely want this to be a brawl.
Machine, just with a really nice shot. You'd think it'd be impossible, but not for him. He got the arm. A little bit of damage there, not bad. These catapults are really tight together. I'm worried if they're going to be able to spread out effectively if KaoS comes over that hill. Of course,
at this point, I'm wondering if KaoS is going to come over this hill. They haven't returned any of the fire that KaoS is bringing them, so KaoS is thinking, maybe we can just keep them pinned down. Do we want to go into this brawl, or they've given us this sniper advantage?
It looks like they have just one Raven keeping an eye on the caves. Oh, and there goes
one SRM6.
Oh, that is not what you want to see this early, especially in a brawler deck. Makes me wonder if Paragon opted to strip armor on the arms to squeeze in extra tonnage, which might have cost them.
Looks like they might be trying to go for a cave push, either that or just pulling him further back. It's an interesting decision, especially if they try and go for the cave push. They are knowing now. It seems that they're thinking, nope, we've given them too much of a sniper advantage. We've got to try and close this distance on our own. They're not going to do it for us. So it looks like they are bringing the catapults through the cave to try and sneak up behind them.
That's right, and splitting up your forces like this, I mean, you've got to be worried that KaoS is just going to say, let's push the ridge right now, when you don't have these 3 mechs to back them up.
They've got about 30 seconds to do so before these guys come around and smack them in the rear. Oh, and we do have possibly spotted going through the cave, and they might be going all the way through, it looks like, trying to go for the base cap.
Interesting play. Samurai's going to lead the way in his Raven.
And that one mech that they did have watching cave, you have to wonder if they did end up seeing him go through or not. And it looks like we might have had some KaoS push over now.
That's right, we definitely saw a KaoS mech in E7, but it could have just been a Raven. So
it looks like they did bring their 2 Ravens through the cave. The hurt large pulse laser catapult. I'm not sure what else is following through, but they did get spotted. They're definitely taking fire.
KaoS did split their forces effectively, and Cartman takes down Snailio for first blood. And there's that KaoS Cicada. Looks like it's just KaoS Light Lance defending the base, but it looks like their Heavy Lance is starting to mop up Paragons already.
Yep, the issue when you try to split your forces of how many are they going to send back, and here we actually do have KaoS bringing the Cicadas. So they definitely wanted to buff their Light Lance a bit further, thinking the Cicada would help them out, especially with the ECM advantage, which it definitely is now.
And Gauss Dragon takes down Samurai very quickly. Even outnumbered and outgunned, the KaoS forces are taking down the Paragon Ravens. It is that ECM superiority that the Cicada is offering, and things are looking very bleak for Paragon.
At this point, I am curious if it looks like, was that a KaoS mech that went down there? I'm not sure.
I believe so, but it might have been a team kill that it didn't register, or possibly an overheat death. And it looks like they have lagged Gauss Dragon. Cicada is just trying to hang in there.
And KaoS Dragon does go down. The Cicada still delaying this cap.
And it is ticking, but not going to be fast enough. KaoS is going to be coming over that hill very soon.
And it looks like they did opt to go and send their mechs back to defend the base instead of going for the cap.
Well, here comes KaoS. Oh yes, Cataphract has arrived. It's Machine. Oh, and here's everybody. This is going to get very ugly for Paragon very quickly. It's so close too. I mean, there's only about 20% left on that cap. Nice shooting by Kataris takes down Machine.
Oh yeah.
But Kataris is just almost cored. Will not last long against that 6-cat.
You can definitely see why they felt comfortable bringing in the large pulse lasers. 2 alphas from him with just the pulse lasers right in the CT, and that took him down.
Definitely some
But again,
sharp
it's just
shooting.
a repeat of first match of they couldn't quite take down KaoS's Light Lance in time in order to try and get that base cap. If they had taken down those mechs just a little bit faster, you can see how close that is to being capped. It doesn't look like much, but when you have 3 mechs, 4 mechs sitting on that cap, that is maybe a 5-second, 10-second, almost victory.
So close yet so far. No one is going to punish Paragon for not being creative these games, but unfortunately KaoS was prepared and they were just too on the ball.
It'd have been interesting if Paragon would try to go for more of a straight-up brawl with KaoS, see if they could outshoot them, and just instead of trying to go for those base caps. But you know, like you said, it got that ear hit, lost an SRM6, lose some firepower. They might have been feeling like they just had to pressure and do something.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. It would have been more interesting if, especially in that first round, it really felt like Paragon had the advantage for at least the first few moments of that push. And if they had gone straight into a brawl, pushed on those Atlases, and worked their way from the biggest mechs down, might have gone in their favor. But who knows? It was a great game, very quick series. KaoS is going to take it 3-0. If you are just joining us, unfortunately you did miss it, but KaoS did take it 3-0 against Paragon in some very tight games on Frozen City.
I mean, it's 3-0, but if you look at that base cap, it's a risk, but you can see just how close it can come to paying off. And you split your forces, but an extra 3 seconds, 4 seconds, if they had taken down those mechs just a little bit faster, if they hadn't sent those mechs back in time, that would have been easy victories for Paragon with the base caps.
Absolutely. When you have multiple mechs on, it goes down so quickly. You only have a matter of seconds to respond. Luckily, KaoS was really on top of it. They saw them coming. They got their Ravens back quickly. They bought time for their Heavy Lance to not only win the brawl, but return and mop everything up.
To those asking about games 4 and 5, they will not be played due to the fact that it is a best of 3 series out of 5 potential games to be played, and KaoS did end up taking the first 3 right off the bat to win the series for them.
So KaoS will be moving on, and then they're waiting for the next opponent. We have Luna Wolves and KDR Squad are playing tonight, and the winner of that should face Snow Raven, which hopefully will be soon. And then after the results of the Snow Raven versus the winner of the Luna Wolves KDR Squad, that team will play KaoS, and loser of that matchup will be playing Deviate. Or not Deviate, I'm sorry. Loser of that match will be playing Paragon.
And it's definitely something for those who remember the RHoD closed beta tournament. It is the change of format now that we're in open beta, where we do have this losers bracket. So just because Paragon did get knocked out 3-0 tonight does not mean they're out of this yet.
That's right, and that's one of those nice things about double elimination is that even if your first game doesn't quite go well, you can always crawl your way back in.
Hello.
And it looks like we are being joined by some of the teams right now, so let's hop in and ask some questions, guys.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey, what's up?
So guys, in the
And
very
we do
first,
have
in the very first
sorry.
round, when Paragon came over that hill, KaoS, what were you guys thinking for what were they up to? What was your response to them
Well,
that first push?
The general idea was, I mean, we try to incentivize scouting early on in the match, and GD was kind of, he's very good at calling plays as far as what mechs are going where. About 30 seconds before they made the push, GD already said they're going to do this. This is what's going to happen. In the meantime, we had our Bukakapult, our 6 SRM cat, and our Atlases. We were going to move left down the 7 line and see if we could actually come up behind them, kind of shake them loose off their base. But they beat us to the punch. They came up over the ridge. We had to back out. It was kind of taken by surprise to a point, and but we were able to recover. We always usually fight with our snipers in reserve, and they were able to put out some really fantastic shots on the 3Ds that had pushed up actually into brawl range. Even prior to that, one of their cataphracts had a cord out left visual that we were able to capitalize on when she actually got into the actual scrum.
Yeah, for me, I was doing the scouting up ahead, but I had to start being more conservative. But I took a lot of shots early. Like their snipers didn't miss much, and before I even really fired my first shot, I was cored out. So I basically did the scouting. I went through the pocket and I saw the Atlases. Well, not through the pocket, but on the ridge, and I saw the Atlases pressed up against the wall. And I knew immediately it was a pocket push. And so when I called that, we repositioned and we had them pinned as they came through the pocket. And then they came down the city, but they were already pretty torn up. And also multi-talented's game froze, but I think Paragon lost someone too at the same time.
Well, it's unfortunate that there were technical issues during the middle of the drop.
Well, they kind of balanced out, I guess. 1 for 1.
So how tough was it fighting Frozen City 3 times in a row?
Well, I kind of wanted to apologize to Paragon. I mean, they're a great team, but Frozen City is our strongest map, and we got high spawn every time. And I guess it's just luck of the draw. I mean, we got placed on the matches that we got placed on, and we just played them out. I mean, like I said before, it is our strongest map, so it is what it is. I want to extend my condolences to Paragon because they played well, but it's just there's way too much you can do on that map at any given point in time.
Yeah, we were commenting on the second drop there that with the range setup that Paragon had, it'd be much more useful if they had the high spawn.
Definitely.
And
Both. Sorry, Protection. Go ahead.
I was going to ask you, in game 2, when you guys decided that you kind of tracked the Paragon, had a sniper set up, did you guys just kind of on an impulse say, okay, blitz them, let's go, let's send the Atlases in, disrupt them, and go right into a brawl?
That was pretty much the general idea. I mean, once Versov had basically said, okay, there's a sniping or not cataphract, but stalker on the hill, I said, you know what, we've got our Atlases in lockstep. We pushed over the hill. We did our typical, I'm point. They focused me. I rolled out. Bellator and Carbon were able to roll up behind them and blow them away completely. Rolling back into the fight and then getting on Snailio, so he couldn't actually put those PPCs to bear.
I'm curious on Paragon's perspective on this. It did seem that you were going with a bit of a mixed setup, more sniper focus for the first drop. Definitely focusing even more on the sniper with the stalker on the second drop. What was the triggering factor that decided, no, we definitely want to go for a brawl setup on this third drop and not continue with the snipers?
Sorry, was that question for me?
Yes, sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I think we wanted to give KaoS a different look. They're a strong team. I think they knew what to expect from us coming in, and getting Frozen City 3 times in a row, that was tough because we spawned on the same time, same weak side 3 times in a row, and there wasn't a whole lot we could do. So we kind of hoped that we would get a different match and that we'd be able to get in with them and brawl against them. We definitely wanted to get at least one brawl in against them because they're kind of known as a brawling team, and we kind of wanted to match up against them and see what what we could do. But unfortunately, it didn't quite. We did end up getting the brawl we wanted just because we ended up pushing straight to their base and they had to come in. So it was just really about trying to give them a different look, trying to change it up a little bit since we had lost 2 in a row, and see if we could change our luck by doing something new.
So one of the things that really interests me is you took the 3 large pulse, 2 SRM6 catapult. That's the one I have to get that the innovative mech award because I have not seen that used before. I don't even know if I've seen it used in opens before. Is that something you guys have been trying out a lot? You don't have to give away trade secrets if you don't want to, though.
I believe I'll have to double check with my guys. I believe that is an Avelios trade secret. I believe he's the one who is running that. I'm not quite. He's a big fan of it, and he's used a lot in pug matches. I don't think we've used it a lot in practice, but he's been a big fan of it, and he's. I guess we ended up using it tonight because it's something he feels comfortable in. It's something he prefers over the jump fract and the AC-20 cat. So. That's probably why we ended up running with it. I'm not really the strategy guy for my team, but I think that's how it worked out.
Definitely something unique. Definitely something that I wasn't sure what to expect from it. But then 2 alphas into a Cataphract CT later, and it took him down, and I was very impressed with that build. Not something I was expecting.
There have been some things we've tried out. I mean, speaking about large pulse lasers, they're not half bad. If there's a way to actually fit them properly with actually secondary weapons like AC-20s or SRMs, they'd be very desirable. They do a lot of damage very quickly, especially with the state rewind.
So I want to ask you guys a question, both teams, while we got you there, and Protection, you can chime in as well. What we have coming Tuesday, Coolant. How much do you think that's going to affect this tournament? Like what drop decks people are taking? Do you think people are going to go for much more hotter mechs? Do you think it's really going to change up some of what we've seen so far?
I don't know if it's going to change up a whole lot of what we've seen. I think it's going to change a lot of the things we already have seen and make them more effective. You're going to be able to ripple fire the 6-cat a lot more effectively. You're going to be able to snipe even more aggressively with the 3D Pop-Tart. You're going to brawl a little bit longer with your Brawler Atlas.
Depending on how it's actually implemented, it could be maybe not necessarily game-changing, but it'll be definitely a boon. I mean, it completely depends on whether or not you have to take off a specific module that you might really, really want. I'm not, like I said, I haven't looked too deep into how they're actually implementing it. For me specifically, I mean, if I had a way to drop 35% of my heat, especially on my DDC, that's another alpha or two, especially if you drop it right at the top of the threshold. So, I mean, it could be a game changer, especially in very heavy brawling mechs or maybe higher energy based mechs. I mean, you kind of shrug and just kind of wait for it to come out and see.
We'll also be seeing another wide open map. And I know a lot of teams that we were talking about in the pre-show about how teams are switching to more of a range-based setup. And you don't have to comment on what you might do, but I think it's going to be interesting going forward with these teams once we have this new map, another big long-range map, if teams are going to end up just being struggling if they go with a full brawl setup.
Yeah, I think teams are probably going to start going for a more balanced build. We kind of heard going in that KaoS is kind of uses a more balanced deck. I'd heard going in that they kind of use Centurions and Brawler Atlases, but they mixed them up with the Cataphract 3D, and I think that's probably where a lot of teams will start going from now on. If Tourmaline Desert is anything like Alpine, and if the rotation, I don't know how they work their match for rotation, but right now Alpine doesn't seem to pop up as much as the other matches. But if you add the desert map into that, and you start getting a higher incidence of matches on these really big maps where you kind of have to snipe or else you're out of it, I think a lot of teams will start moving to that kind of drop deck like we heard KaoS was going to use.
And of course, the other big part of the patch is, of course, the Jaeger mech. Do you think this mech has any real potential, or do you think it's just going to be a fun kind of joke thing to run around with 2 AC-20s and a 300 XL?
Personally, I'm going to be making an AC2 LRM5 Jaeger mech, just being a bastard at long range.
Three
on a more serious note, I have no idea. I mean, you could see. I mean, if it's got the space, you could see like XL AC-20 Jaeger mechs with SRMs. I mean, I have no idea personally. It could be amazing. It could be terrible. With the hit or miss, ideal behind all their mechs so far. It's I don't even know. You kind of, again, it's just, you have to wait and see. It's so inconsistent.
Now for that LRM5 AC2s, are you thinking small pulse if they close in for that? If they get too close for you?
Small pulse, of course.
Tags do way more damage.
Should go with a narc just to be safe.
Well, again, to anyone just tuning in, you did miss the matches, but they will be up on the Run Hot or Die on this channel if you go to the previous broadcasts, as well as the Run Hot or Die YouTube at youtube.com/runhotorDie. It is a KaoS victory, 3-0. However, it is a double elimination tournament, so I would not be surprised to see Paragon continuing on further along in this tournament. We do apologize for any stream quality issues that we had. It was some issues just, I think, with possibly with Twitch and MLG going on right now. It's a lot of bandwidth going on through Twitch, so not sure if that was the issue. We will always try and improve the quality of the stream, the quality of the broadcast with each broadcast that we do. I think you could already see just a bit more production value going into this one than the previous match that we had. Was it Friday? Thursday.
No more GD's desktop. No more showing passwords on TeamSpeak. No more yada yada.
Oh,
And
but we
also,
want your passwords.
If you're playing the St. Patrick's Day drinking game, every time KaoS makes a penis joke, you take a shot.
Oh man, that's dangerous.
Yeah, you're definitely gonna be pumping your stomach at the end of the night.
Penis. There's 3 shots right there.
Again, I do want to. I think we're still good to get you. I just want to go with a quick shout out. If you do enjoy Run Hot or Die, if you do like this type of play, follow this stream. It is you want to be hopefully the main source for the Run Hot or Die playoffs. It will try and bring you the quality shoutcasting, quality matches. So make sure you follow. It'll keep you up in the loop, and we'll try and make sure that there's a post on the official forums as well as often as possible.
And feel free to drop by www.runhotordie.com.
Do you guys have any final comments?
Not particularly. I just wanted to let Paragon know that they fought a good fight, and sorry that you guys picked us up on the best map 3 times in a row. I would have liked to have seen more variation in the maps,
Yeah.
Alpine or Forest Colony or something. But we were very shocked when we got into into the second and third map, and we're like, we're still in the same spawn. Did something happen?
Yeah, on the third
Am I having a
map,
stroke?
By the time I think we got Frozen City in the same spots for the 3rd time, I think like 16 people collectively groaned. And then 15 minutes later, everybody watching probably did the same thing.
Yeah, something must not be legit because you guys didn't get River City at all. And if you don't have River City, then it's just not a real match.
No.
Clearly.
Yeah.
New
I
rules
agree.
coming down the pipe and Run Hot or Die. Must have at least run 1 River City map to be official.
Yeah, I just want to say props to KaoS. Coming in, we knew they were going to be a tough fight, and they turned out to be as tough as predicted. So, whether we got bad map placement or whatever the case may be, they absolutely had us straight from the beginning. So, props to them. They're a great team, and I have a feeling they're going to go all the way.
I wouldn't sell Paragon short that far. Sell Paragon that short. I know it didn't look like it, especially for anyone tuning in. You just see the 3-0 victory there for KaoS, but those base rushes, those base caps, it's a risk, but you can see just how close it can come to paying off. An extra 5-10 seconds on those caps, it would have been a completely different game.
If Multi didn't spot you guys going to the cap, you guys definitely would have had it. No problem.
Good to know. Good to know. I wish he hadn't.
Yeah, well, I mean, I remember watching the stream, like the 3rd game, and after it was done, of course. And, I see from the perspective of your guy in the Pulse mech, and obviously one of our guys was looking at him, that was probably Multi. And at that point, that's exactly what he said, they're going for the cap, and so we ran back just to try and delay.
We, like I said before, we incentivize intel and tracking and timing. Like that's our big cup of tea, and making sure that we can get to a specific place at a specific time and where enemies are, and if we can pull off what we did, which is engaging your heavy lance while with most of our assets while you guys were still tied up trying to make it through the cave, and the gamble paid off. I timed it correctly, and we were able to actually get back to the base in more than enough time. In quotes, I did it on purpose.
Well, I want to wish you guys good luck on your next matches. As we talked about, it'll be a little bit before we find out who your next opponent's going to be, because hopefully we have a match finishing up tonight, and the winner of that match will go on to play Snow Raven, and then the winner of that match will play KaoS, and the loser of that match will be playing Paragon.
Sweet.
For those Paragon fans out there and those DV8 fans out there, this is a double elimination tournament, so they're not gone yet.
All right, I guess we'll wrap this up then. Thank you all for tuning in to RHoD or Die. If you missed it, again, KaoS beat Paragon 3-0 in the first round. Have a good night.
Again, also, if you missed it, the will be up on the RHoD or Die YouTube as well as this channel on the previous broadcast. And be sure to follow this stream if you want to get email updates on when it goes live, when we'll get more matches for you all.
And thank you to Samurai, Ghost Dragon, and Christoph for joining us. And thank you